So today, this is the fifth session of first day of the Asian Evaluation Week. And the session today we are having is Institutionalization of Evaluation at National Level, Strengthening Political, Social, and Professional System. And I am Rajani Kayastha, and I will be moderating this session. And I'm very glad that I'm here and I got this opportunity. And I'm an M&E professional, and currently I'm working as an independent consultant. So, in this session today is brought to you with the support from APEA, Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, UNFPA, and Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation. And we just have very few housekeeping rules. That is, we ask you to please use the Q&A box that is available there on the bottom of your screen. If you have to ask any question, please use that box. And please feel free to write any comment or any questions as our speaker and panelists speak. And there will be a Q&A segment after the discussion, and we will address all your questions and your comments. And if you wish to speak, we will also let you speak, and just raise your hand during the Q&A segment, and we will unmute your mic. Now, for the session, we have a lead presenter. He is Dr. Asela, and he's the president of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. And he has played a very key role in institutionalizing and professionalizing evaluation in his country, Sri Lanka, and also in the region. And he will be doing the presentation for this session. And we do have a very distinguished panel members today. Firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Romulo. He's the Director General of the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department, House of Representative Philippines. And we have Honorable Thilakarajah. He is the Treasurer of Sri Lanka Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation, and he is also the former member of Parliament of Sri Lanka. And we have Mr. Aniruddha. He's the board member of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, and he has very extensive experience on monitoring, evaluation, and research. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Asela to present for the session. Dr. Asela, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this opportunity for Asia Pacific Evaluation Association together with UNFPA and Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation to have this session on institutionalization of evaluation at national level. Let me quickly go through the lead presentation about key factors for institutionalization of evaluation. Then we will have a discussion with our panelists as well as the audience. Regarding institutionalization of evaluation in our countries, I just want to quickly mention some overarching guidelines. One is the UN resolution on evaluation passed in December 2014 by member states, emphasizing national evaluation capacity development for evaluation. And secondly, UN resolution on Agenda 2030, we all know about SDGs agenda, emphasizing follow-up and review. This also brings some aspects about evaluation, monitoring, and need for evidence-based decision-making. When it comes to institutionalization of evaluation, what does it mean? Of course, there are some thoughts from scholars. Robert Lahe in 2006 mentioned building blocks for institutionalization of evaluation. He mentioned four main key areas. One is vision of leadership, enabling environment, technical capacity to supply monitoring and evaluation, and capacity to demand and use monitoring and evaluation information. Also, he mentioned two main areas: political will for change, I think that is important, and pace for development of M&E infrastructure. That is Robert Lahe. And Holliot and Renard mentioned 6 characteristics for institutionalization. One is policy, methodology, organization, whether there is specific organization or mandated institution for evaluation, capacity, participation, and use. You can see there are some overlapping criteria and information between this and Robert. And Marco Seccone categorized countries into 4 areas based on quality and trustworthiness of evidence. So he mentioned evidence demand constrained countries. That's where supply is strong, but demand is weak. So we call them evidence influenced countries. At the same time, evidence supply constrained countries where supply is weak, but demand is high. Again, evidence influenced countries. But at the same time, demand is weak and supply is weak. It is opinion-based countries, so opinion-based system. And if it is evidence-based system, supply should be strong and also demand should be strong. That's how Marcos categorized. So it gives us, some about what is institutionalization and how some of the scholars have defined institutionalization. And also there are some studies already conducted on institutionalization of evaluation. The first systematic study on institutionalization is mainly the International Atlas of Evaluation, the first one. I'm sure that all of you know about this. This was done basically in OECD countries, and they use 9 criteria, including policy domains, supply of evaluators, discussions and debates on evaluation, national evaluation society exists, and all. These are the 9 criteria. And 19 OECD countries were reviewed under this. And in the first one, in this study, it revealed that about half of them have strong evaluation system. This was repeated in 10 years, in 2012 again, with the same OECD countries, and found that some have more matured systems after 10 years, after a decade. But in this study also the same criteria were used. There is a study conducted with more countries, over 100 countries, started in 2013, but it was repeated in 2015 and 2021, called Global Mapping on National Evaluation Policies and Systems, conducted by Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation. This was mainly regarding national evaluation policies, actually, and who is managing the national evaluation policy rather than institutionalization or whole system. But this is the first study, covered over 100 countries, and these reports are available online as well for us to learn what are the countries having national evaluation policies. But the first study in 2013 with 115 countries revealed that at that time only 20 countries had an endorsed national evaluation policy. The most recent and most comprehensive, I would say, the framework and study was presented by project by Professor Stockman, Professor Wolfgang Mayer, and Lina Taube in 2020. The framework was developed in 2020, and the first study in Europe was published in 2020. The Americas study, which includes all the North American and Latin American countries, was published in 2021. The study regarding Asia is coming up. It will be, I think, published next year, and they are covering Africa as well. So this will be the most comprehensive global study covering most countries. when other regions are also covered. And we are excited to see the results of Asian countries as well. And regarding the framework for this global evaluation global study, they had three main domains. One is political system, covering evaluation regulations, parliament and national audit structure, organizational structure, whether there is independent organization, handling evaluation, and evaluation practice and use. And then second one is social systems, whether civil society is aware of evaluation, they use evaluations for their decision making, even when participating in elections, whether they use evaluation evidence to decide which party to vote for, and public perception and public discourse, the discussions, including media and participation of civil society in evaluations. And demand for evaluations by civil society organizations. Those are the main area. And the last one is about professionalization, system of professions, whether there is evaluation, whether there are journals and communication platforms on evaluation, professional organizations like WOPES, and existence of and compliance to standards and quality obligations like standards, ethics, and other regulations. And this is the framework they used. This is why I say that, this is more comprehensive. And the other thing is that this is the first time social system is included in institutionalization in evaluation globe. You can see that other studies did not use the social aspect in this way.
And I just like to interrupt you for a while. I have a very interesting poll that I want to launch over here. So I request all the participants to answer this question. So as you see in your screen, there's a question and you'll just have to make your choice, okay? The question is, what is the weakest factor for the institutionalization of evaluation in Europe? So I see the responses are already coming in. We'll just take a few seconds and then we'll end the poll. But it is coming, answers are coming rapidly. And so few more seconds and then I'm going to end the poll. Okay, I see that, 100% of you have already answered the question. So I end the poll and I'd like to share the result over here. So here's the result that you see. So most of you, majority of you have said that it's the political system that is the weakest factor. But Asela, and also I see that, other half have voted for social system, legal system, and very less participant has voted for professional system. Asela, what's your observation here? What do you think about the poll? I'd like to, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rajani, for the poll, and also thanks to everyone who participated in the poll. Very interesting how you see this. Let me share some information about these three domains in Europe. This includes the European study. You can also find this report online. This is available. I think it is for sale, but definitely it is available online. There are 16 countries in Europe participated in this study, and political system. If you see that, there are various status of different countries, but Switzerland got the highest mark. This is out of 1.93 Switzerland. And even in Europe, you can see Portugal and Romania, it's 0 for them. So the system is not actually working properly for them as well. So that is why it is 0. And social system, I will come back to that. Professional system, again, Switzerland got 0.94. That is the highest, and also Germany 0.94, and some countries like France 0.88. Social system, you can see it's 0.2, 0.1, 0.25 like that. And again, highest Switzerland, 0.4 Switzerland. So overall, Switzerland got highest degree according to these three domains. But definitely European countries also have got some challenges when applying this framework on institutionalization, as you can see. And some of you correctly answered. Social system is the challenge here. Whether citizens understand evaluation, whether they use evaluation, whether they demand evaluation, whether civil society organizations demand evaluation. So we as evaluators, we have to think about that again. And comparison of few studies, I have taken some European countries and compared them with 2001, 2011, and 2020 studies. If you recall, 2001 is International Atlas 1, 2011 is International Atlas 2, 2020 is the Evaluation Globe. You can see now 2001 and 2011 study results are more or less similar, but 2020, the percentages are lower than 2001 and 2011. The main, of course, the criteria are different. You can't compare exactly, but the main difference in 2020 is that the social system was a new criteria included in 2020. So when you apply social system and it is weak than other two, the percentages have gone down. So as evaluators and organizations working on evaluation, we may have to think about this. So main lessons, actually political system and system of professions show some progress. Social system show nil or little progress in many countries in Europe. But of course, when we see results regarding Asia Pacific countries, we will know how we are doing in this region. So we are waiting for these results from Evaluation Group project. Regulations are evident, but has not become a precondition for regular evaluations. Actually, we have to see if there is evaluation policy or evaluation law, whether evaluations are conducted regularly. In my country, Sri Lanka, we have evaluation policy. We are the only country in South Asia having endorsed evaluation policy. But I'm still asking whether there are regular evaluations. And Philippines have evaluation policy framework, I think. So our Filipino panelists can tell us more about that. In this region, Japan has Evaluation Policy Act. This is the only country has evaluation law, I think, in this region since 2001. And of course, I think they have evaluations going on. And Nepal has evaluation included in the constitution. So at the same time, some of the countries having evaluation policy or regulations, they have not proved that regular evaluations are conducted. Organizational setting has not spread widely across the public sector institutions. That is another key lesson. Parliament and audit officers do not play a significant role for evaluations, but they are actually important stakeholders in this. Evaluation practice mostly operate without professionally recognized evaluator. So we all know that evaluation is not a professional recognized profession. So we all have to work on. Evaluations are still donor driven. I remember, not country-led, but I remember that we are saying this for a long time now. I don't know when we can stop saying this. The time we have country-led evaluations, definitely we will not complain about this. And academic courses, I know that in Sri Lanka we have postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation, but only few countries have academic courses. But in the professionalization journey, we need evaluation academic courses. And the emerging trends. Engaging parliamentarians and young and emerging evaluators are now emerging trends. Very few questions for our discussion and future thoughts. Actually, whether we are advocate enough for evaluation regulations is one question we have to think. and whether we have done any awareness raising among citizens and civil society, because we always say citizens don't know anything about evaluation. But the question is, what have we done for them? Have we started something to raise awareness? What can workers do to address professionalization, and also individual evaluators to educate citizens? And very quickly, in Asia Pacific region, Asia Pacific Evaluation Association has regional evaluation strategy, and we have few examples because we have 8 teams. Under each team, there is a program going on. Few examples are, we have National Evaluation Policies and Systems team. Under that, a regional dialogue is conducted every year. This year, we have it on 5th of December. And then we also have a new program called Each One Teach One to educate citizens about evaluation. This is under the community ownership theme, and competency framework we have developed for capacity building under professionalization or WOPE theme. So these are just very few examples. There's a comprehensive program going on in the region. So I would stop here. And thank you everyone for listening to me. And also I think Rajani may have few more calls, and then we can go to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to make things a little more interesting, I have 2 more questions for you all. So here's the question for you. So the first one is, you'll have to choose the wrong statement among the given statements. And the question number 2 is, an Asia Pacific country which does not have an endorsed national evaluation policy or act. So I see that all of you, 100%, all of you have already answered the question 1. And I see that, you're going on to the second question as well. So here we are. Let me, the responses are coming in and it's changing. This, they show the percentage and it's changing. So here I end the poll, and I'd like to share the results with you all. So the first one, which is the wrong statement regarding the year 2015, the lowest response that we have received, the option number 3, is actually the correct answer. It's the UN resolution that mentioned about the building capacity for the evaluation of development activities at the country level. Past the UN resolution. Yes, this is the wrong statement. And the second question was about which Asian country who does not have an endorsed evaluation policy and act. And majority of you have answered Pakistan, and that is the correct answer. Yes, thank you so much for responding to our poll, and it's very interesting to see that all of you have actually responded. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajani. I just want to quickly mention about 2015 year of international evaluation. So there were a series of events, but as you correctly, some of you correctly mentioned, the UN resolution was passed in December 2014, not 2015, but year 2015 was very important. That's the reason we asked this question. Many things emerge in that year for evaluation field. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asela. Your presentation was very informative and very interesting. Thank you again. And now I'd like to call upon our panelists to give you a reaction. We'll start with Dr. Romulo, and then we'll go on to Mr. Thilakarajah, and then Mr. Aniruddha. Just to remind you that we just have 2 minutes each.
And thank you for the opportunity to participate in this discussion on institutionalizing national evaluation. Poverty, inequality, hunger, malnutrition, climate change, and many other problems that confront us require whole of government and whole of society interventions. Hence, evaluation that is needed for policy and decision-making should be institutionalized at the national level. The various studies cited by Dr. Asela in his presentation show that countries vary in the levels and stages of institutionalizing evaluation. The studies cited also show that the institutionalization of evaluation does not happen in a linear fashion and that there is no one-size-fits-all model. Notwithstanding, Dr. Asela's presentation points to important factors that can promote the culture of evaluation at the national level. These factors can be grouped into three major aspects of evaluation: demand for evaluation, supply of evaluation, and the enabling environment. One, there must be a healthy demand for evaluation as input to evidence-based policy and decision-making. The demand can come from policymakers from both executive and legislative branches of government, and from civil society organizations, the private sector, and other stakeholders of government policies and programs. Two, there should be supply of updated quality and reliable evaluation data. The supply can come from the academic research institutions and professional evaluators, both local and international. Three, the environment that would enable and effectively and efficiently link the demand and supply of evaluation should be in place. This environment is comprised of an organizational setup, systems and procedures and guidelines and standards that may be embodied in executive issuances and or laws passed in Parliament. Finally, Dr. Asela's presentation provides us a framework that points to three interrelated domains that can serve as building blocks for the institutionalization of national evaluation, namely political system, social system, and professional system. Each domain identifies specific areas of evaluation that can be the focus of capacity building and systems improvement for evaluation to be actually instrumental in addressing complex socioeconomic problems and challenges. The three domains also show that we have specific roles to play in the institutionalization of evaluation. We can be champion of evaluations in our individual spheres, but we cannot afford to operate in silos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Romulo. Thilakarajah, your reaction, please.
Yeah, thank you, Rajani, for the opportunity. I am happy to be here consecutive fourth year as a panelist in the Asian Evaluation Week. Yes, once come to the presentation from Dr. Asela. It's very interesting, not only from the presentation, but also from the audience. We got responses on 2-3 questions, especially as a politician and the president of the Sri Lanka Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation. I wish to respond relating to with the political aspect, what is the political will that we need, we are expecting to institutionalizing evaluation in a country. In the Sri Lankan context, yes, I would like to mention that how much it's important that political will is. Actually, we had a draft policy for evaluation in year 2003, but in 2018 only we were able to endorse in Cabinet of Ministers. That it shows the 15 years gap from the draft policy to the national policy to be enacted in the national level. It was for 15 years gap, shows that how the political will was. In the meantime, that I would like to say, then again in 2019 we were able to form a committee, a Parliament Select Committee inside the Parliament to make more enhanced work on evaluation, to make evaluation bill, to create evaluation bill, and the committee was submit that report to the Parliament, official report, to create a national evaluation bill. Actually, the draft bill is ready by the committee, and also to have established a standing committee inside the Parliament for evaluation, and also to enhance parliamentary research unit, not only as a research unit, but also to be a evaluation unit inside the Parliament. So these are the political will. Now, as a professional body, Sri Lankan Evaluation Association, after this COVID pandemic and starting with the fuel crisis in Sri Lanka, we have begun again to institutionalizing evaluation things in Sri Lanka, not only with Parliament, but also working with parliamentarian and academia and other NGO and civil societies, especially for society implications, so that we are again we are in a track to institutionalizing evaluation in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I may answer any more questions in the question and answer session. Thank you, Rajani.
Thank you so much. Aniruddha, your reaction to the presentation, please.
one of the things which sort of struck me in the presentation was his repeated when we looked at the whole issue of capacity and the professionalization of evaluation. And the rationale for professionalization is, I think, quite simple, because if you have a profession which is recognized by the government and there is a sort of a legitimacy among the practitioners, then what happens with the professionals when they go out and do an evaluation, the certain minimum standards are also maintained. It also provides a level of protection from potentially significant damages that may be associated with bad advice and malpractice. So I think the issue of capacity and the professionalization of evaluation was very interestingly brought out by Dr. Asela. In India, although we have a long history of starting from early 1950s of having a program evaluation office within the government, within the erstwhile planning commission, but the development of the national evaluation policy, there have been spurts and of activities around it, but yes, there is no act of parliament per se in India for national evaluation policy. So there is a whole body of work need to be done. The third bit I wanted to sort of highlight was linked to the capacity building is also the availability of different courses, or in a sense higher studies, an MSc in development studies focusing on maybe evaluation as an area of study in various universities. So once we have the body of people talking or learning or going through a rigorous academic process of learning about evaluation, we can create young professionals in the field, and which they can contribute to making the practice of evaluation much more informed and much more scientific in the process of saying that. So Rajani, that's were my early reactions to the Dr. Asela's presentation.
Thank you so much, Aniruddha. I also suggest you there was a bit of disturbance in your audio. So, but anyway, we've come to a very interesting segment of the session. It's a talk show. So we have very interesting panelists over here, and I have a bunch of questions for them. And so to start with, since Dr. Romulo is from the Philippines, and we are very curious to know, the current state of political system. What kind of systems are there in place regarding evaluation in the Philippines? And we would like to know about it. And also, how is the use and demand of evaluation by civil society? And how is the public awareness towards the evaluation? Your experience would be very interesting for us. We'd like to know about it.
Yes. In 2015, the National Economic and Development Authority and the Department of Budget and Management, the Philippines lead planning and budgeting agencies respectively, issued a joint memorandum circular on the National Evaluation Policy Framework. This is the first formal attempt of the Philippine government to establish a comprehensive national evaluation system. The document was largely inspired by the December 2014 United Nations General Assembly resolution calling for capacity building for the evaluation of development activities at the country level. While many government agencies in the Philippines conduct some form of monitoring and evaluation, the capacity and standards of evaluation among the different government agencies are highly uneven. Not all government agencies have monitoring and evaluation units, and not all monitoring and evaluation units have adequate technical capacity. Currently, the conduct of evaluation is very dependent on the support from the top leadership of the agencies and the availability of funds usually coming from foreign assisted programs. Collaboration in the conduct and use of evaluation across different government agencies and even within the same government agencies are not evident. Most evaluations are conducted in silos, and evaluation results are not widely shared. The National Evaluation Policy Framework addresses many of these issues and challenges in evaluation. The framework provides broad guidelines on evaluation criteria, evaluation competencies, ethical standards, best practices in evaluation, and the reporting, dissemination, and use of evaluation results. The framework envisions the creation of an interagency evaluation task force that shall provide overall policy directions and coordination on the evaluation agenda of all public sector. The National Economic and Development Authority has drafted the guidelines to operationalize the framework. However, they have not been issued and implemented. Moreover, the government has allocated funds for evaluation in the Annual General Appropriations Act. However, the funds have low utilization rate due to low awareness and support among agencies whose program may be the subject of evaluation or lack of capacity to conduct evaluation among intended users. The limited supply of qualified evaluators has also been raised as a concern. Evaluation has also been considered vital to legislation and oversight work of the Philippine Congress. The rules of the House of Representatives provides that committees shall have oversight responsibilities to determine whether or not laws and programs addressing subjects within their jurisdictions are being implemented and carried out in accordance with the intent of Congress, and whether or not they should be continued, curtailed, or eliminated. Congress has also passed a number of laws that provides for mandatory monitoring and evaluation, including the creation of congressional oversight committees to monitor how key legislations are implemented by the executive. There were also resolutions passed calling for the review and evaluation of specific government programs. Oftentimes, however, the demand for evaluation does not result in the actual conduct of evaluation because of the lack of follow-up mechanisms and the technical capacity to direct agencies on the conduct of formal evaluations. Of late, bills or legislative proposals have been filed in both houses of Congress for the institutionalization of a national evaluation policy. However, there are not enough champions and the political will to master its passage into law. So that's the state of the national evaluation as of now in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Romulo. Now going on to Sri Lanka, to Honorable Thilakarajah. You've already given us, an overview of what kind of system is already there in Sri Lanka. We have heard a lot about, the progress and achievement of Sri Lanka in the, in the sector of professionalization of evaluation. But we're curious to know more about it. Maybe you can elaborate more on what kind of policies and systems are there for the institutionalization of evaluation. And additionally, we'd also like to know, what are the, in overall process, what are the major challenges that you all faced as you make this journey? It'll be very interesting to know that.
Yes, of course, Rajani, that as I said that, but even though we had the policy in 2003 that we were able to do something in the political, with the political aspect in 2018-19, but again in the pandemic and the failed crisis and the recently, not only Sri Lanka, that all they came to know about Sri Lanka because of the economic crisis in the recent past that we are experiencing, especially even in UN, it was mentioned that it is economic crime. So this kind of that we are working with the development intervention and all, how that institutionalization evaluation is very important. As we discussed in the presentation, what is the social expectation on evaluation? How much that general public is interested in what to know about what's happening to their tax money. Of course, that once it comes as the public funds, how they're using it. So generally talking, that we have several committees inside the parliament, and every year that we are submitting budget. So whether any questions on public funds that got used, what happened to the development interventions, there were some committees called sectoral oversight committees were in function in 2015-2020 period. There were some arrangements, technical arrangement to question that, especially public finance committee and all, that will analyze as soon the budget submitted to the parliament to know about what's happened there. But later on, these kind of committees were not in function after that in 2020. That's also one of the reasons that there was no question. Whatever it is that the institutionalized is a little bit slower than when you compare with that other period. then again that what we are trying to do that even from you may know about the word evaluation in Sri Lanka, but rather than there is a word called in our local language called aragalaya, that is protest from the people to know about their development intervention, what happened, what went wrong to the country and all. So from the aragalaya people, that means the protesters, they were raising the question. This is in form of evaluation they need. What happened to last 70 years to the country? So we can, whatever the terms that they used in their local language, that we have to professionalize into the correct word that could be evaluation. That is my point of view that I could say. Even the politicians, they came from that they wanted to say that they are not brokes. So they won't say, I am for audit. So what do you mean by audits? That's means of political, the economic term that they could say that by economically they are they're free, they are not corruption and all. But we have to find out whether there any corruption held, whether there any possibility to corruption. Evaluation can be a tool for corruption as well. So we have to institutionalize in different kind of the political aspect as well as the social aspect, as well as with the public sector, even with the public sector official and the civil society, that how that we can by institutionalizing evaluation we can overcome through kind of issues. Actually speaking, Sri Lanka is need of evaluation at the moment with the institutionalization, especially as a professional body. Sri Lanka Evaluation Association is very keen under the leadership of Dr. Asela Kalugampitiya at the moment. We are working with Parliament, we are working with public sector, we are working with academia, and we are working with NGOs and civil societies as well. Especially that working with academia means that there's an agreement between the University Grants Commission and the Parliament to how to interconnect those research finding and evaluation findings by the academia, how to connect for the evidence-based decision making in the Parliament. That is one of the mechanisms that we are working at presently. So that we hope what we are presently working on, that institutionalized evaluation will get better solution for the Sri Lanka, what are the crisis we have in the Sri Lanka in future, I think. Thank you, Rajani.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thilakarajah. That was really a very powerful experience that you shared, and it's very indeed a very good example where all of us can learn from Sri Lanka on how, as a civil society, you are there to demand for the accountability. And now I'd like to go on to Aniruddha. In India, we know that there's a long history of institutionalization and now professionalization of evaluation as well. Just to let you know that I'm best out of India at the moment.
I know that's interesting.
So Aniruddha, I just want to know, like what are the current systems that are there in place in India regarding professionalization? That would be very interesting to know about.
Okay. So Rajani, please add if I miss out on some things, because you know the Indian context a little because of the various bodies and the actors in the whole evaluation system scenario in India. So primarily in Indian constitution, there is no word evaluation per se, but somewhere Article 148 gives the power of looking at programs and expenditure to the CAG of India, the Comptroller and the Auditor General of India. Now that draws means that all government programs would need to go through an expenditure plus program audit in some manner or the other. And that was the sort of situation over a period of time. And it continued for a period of time till I think around where the Planning Commission and the Planning Commission's various bodies would the Program Evaluation Office would get into the work and start evaluating things for, in a sense, to the Planning Commission and to the CAG also, answering to the CAG also. But after 2014, we had the new Niti Aayog, and after the Niti Aayog, we have this Office of the Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, DMEO. Now that's one set of players or one set of actors, critical play within the whole frame. There is another body, which is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So they also hold a set of responsibility within the whole process. And these two bodies in tandem has overall created various results frameworks covering all the 80 ministries across the country. In essence, how the program implementation work of the various 80 ministries in the country would work, how they would report to, how the whole process would be monitored, and how it would be sort of looked at, the data and the numbers flowing from the grassroots would be looked at. Having said that, I would pause over here and say that the focus is on monitoring, not evaluation per se. So you have a lot of data coming in with a lot of rigor being put together and various technological innovations happening over there. But there is a focus a lot on the monitoring piece of the work. Evaluation somehow is not a priority per se, a priority in a sense, not high on the agenda per se. And mostly we have seen it has been donor-driven, or a request has been also from various multilateral agencies to about understanding if they are supporting a government program, to understand what's happening on the ground, what's happening with the people's part. There are some programs of Government of India which does constitute as part of the act of that program, does constitute something called social audits as part of the program. So now there is a people's involvement in some parts of government rural development programs where there is a social audit process and people are involved in a certain grassroots evaluation work, which I would term quote unquote work going on over there. But as such, the evaluation does not figure very high on the agenda of understanding. It's the progress monitoring which is more important and looked at very seriously in big focus. The third bit also is the push or the demand for the evaluation. Who is using the evaluation? And so, or the demand for evaluation is very high on the public side. People want to know what the efficacies of the program. So whenever a think tank or a government, other bodies do put out an evaluation or do talk about the progress of the evaluation, say a gender participation in a program in evaluation, that's lapped up not only by the media, and it's talked about on days of it, which shows there is a strong appetite for evaluation and the evaluative work happening in. So I think we are at a stage where our shift would definitely happen over the period of time, from focus on being monitoring, looking at much more monitoring data, to much more looking at evaluative and asking ourselves stronger questions on the program evaluations, in the program evaluations. Rajani, please add, because I know you know the Indian context also pretty.
Thank you so much, Aniruddha. What you have said, correctly highlighted what's the scenario at the moment right now. So going on with the discussion again, I have since you all are very experienced in your field and with your country, just wanted to ask you, like we have participants from various countries at the moment, and we really have a very good number of participants. We've actually almost crossed 130, above 130 participants, and from various countries. It will be very interesting to know, like, what's your opinion or experience, like how evaluation can be institutionalized at the national level. Your experience or your advice will be very interesting for all of us. We'll start with Dr. Romulo. Dr. Romulo, what do you say? How can we institutionalize the evaluation at the national level?
Okay, thank you. Maybe I have a bias here because of the institution where I belong. For me, the legislation of a national evaluation policy that embodies the features of the national evaluation policy framework that I have described earlier and covers all branches and levels of government is vital. A law is needed to anchor the principles, standards, organizational structures, coverage of evaluation, funding, and the reporting, dissemination, and use of evaluation results. Or simply put, the enabling environment for the demand and supply of evaluation to flourish. But as we all know, the presence of a law or policy is not enough. Its implementation demands that high-level officials in all branches and levels of government have good understanding of an appreciation for the importance and benefits of evaluation. The same is demanded of civil society, the private sector, and the citizenry, who are the real stakeholders of government policies and programs. They should be able to provide the continuing demand and support for evaluation. Furthermore, the implementation of the evaluation on a sustained basis requires the technical capacity on the part of the bureaucracy to commission, manage, and conduct evaluation activities. Likewise, a cadre of professional evaluators is critical. They could subsequently form a professional organization that is capable of policing their ranks, update methodologies, and advance the cause of evaluation.
Thank you, Dr. Romulo. Going on to Mr. Thilakarajah, what's your advice? What do you see? How can we, work towards the institutionalization of evaluation at the national level?
Yes, of course. That from the Sri Lankan context, that I could get our experience, how we are doing. That as we said, that we need national policy. Without policy, that we can't implement anything in the country. There will be a question whether it is viable. So that we need a policy. So first, we must go for the policy first. Then again, once it comes to practice, not only having a policy, it should be practiced in the ground. So especially in the government institution. So without act, you can't bring out that for the implementation. Once it's come as an act, that should disseminate among the officials through the regulations which ministries or the government institutions using, and the circulars, what it guides to do those things. So these are the steps that how to institutionalize so the subject evaluation within the development intervention through the ministries and laws. This is the legitimate or legalization and the order. On the other side, that we have to think about the whether we have enough evaluation professionals. So if you do some policy arrangements and the regulations and the circulars comes to the organizations, whether you have personal staff to do that, so that we must have professionals. So that what we can do. So we are working with the universities. So ask the university to conduct evaluation courses in different levels, so that even now Sri Lanka has began in the universities from the certificate level to the master level, to get educated our youths to get in as a professional evaluators to conduct evaluations. And so unless that we have to make awareness among the other stakeholders who are the actors at the moment with the present institution in the government. Especially, I would like to say, like we have the IAS officers in India, we have Sri Lankan Administrative Association, like Sri Lankan Planners Association, who are working with the development intervention in the government sector. So we are making interrelationship between them, how to make evaluation in the day-to-day work on their field. So a kind of arrangements. And from the society side, from the community, there must be a demand on evaluation. So we educate them. So how to educate the public? So we have to work with the civil societies, NGO, who are continuously, directly involving with the public, general public. So making awareness to them to know about evaluation, for demand for evaluation, then public will demand for evaluation. These are the way that we can work, we can institutionalize. So pressuring the government to make the demand that we need evaluation is, then the government will attend to the people that what we are looking for. Presently, the present government, after this crisis thing and all, actually they are interested in formulating and enhancing the committee system within the parliament. Earlier, it was comprised only with the government, only with the parliamentarian. Presently, there is a gate is open for the public even. They can take part in the committee hearings to give their suggestion now in a different form. In the national board also, that then the talking point that to have it in a separate to parliament. So even the public can come and share their view that what they want to do for the country and what kind of need that they are expecting from the governance body. So these kind of arrangements could enhance that evaluation system in the country as an institutionalization method. So all the stakeholders come together to get understand on evaluation, what's important on evaluation, each and every action that we are taking on, not only the development intervention, but also, as Asela mentioned, policies act could be evaluated. Whether we have the scrutinizing policy on scrutinizing our policies, or pre-legislative scrutinizing we have, or post-legislative scrutinizing we have. We have to think about that in all the area where we are working for in the governance sense. So that could these are the advice that I could say. What is the experience that we are having in Sri Lanka to institutionalizing? The other countries, our other colleagues can follow. Yes, thank you, Rajani.
Thank you so much. Aniruddha, we'd like to know your thoughts, but just in very brief. Okay, then we'll go on to the question and answer. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rajani. I think I echo a lot of things what the Honorable Thilakarajah said over there. A lot of things are similar to Sri Lanka and India. So in India, we do have, although we don't have a National Evaluation Act or something like that, or a framework like that, but we have all the foundational bricks in place already, be it from the various departmental sides, or secondly, in terms of capacity within bureaucracy, and also in the civil society or in the academia. We have a large pool of people who understand evaluation and can undertake very rigorous and meaningful evaluation. I think somewhere we are just at the edge where I think the demand for evaluation is also going to come within the government, and it is being raised by various parliamentary committees, which we have, subcommittees which we have, and they are also raising those demands of how to see rigorous evaluations. I think there will be we are at an edge where I think within a couple of years we will have that evaluation policy in place, which sort of gives an overarching directive to the various ministries to undertake how to go about doing an evaluation. I think in the ministries, they do undertake evaluations, and also in the civil society and the other sectors, they do take evaluations. But I think one thread that should be looking into it is about the quality of evaluations. How can we use those evaluations? If we can get good evaluations, we can use them much more extensively to push the agenda or make sure the policies and the programs are much more meaningful for the community. So I think evaluation does have a critical role to play, and with the parliamentarians and the other actors, I think there is a space where we can look at the policy work on evaluation in India much more closely and in a much more sort of a deeper way. And that space still remains, and we need to work on.
Thank you so much, Aniruddha. So very interesting thoughts, and based on your experiences, you've given us a really good insight. Now we'll go on to Q&A, and we have a couple of questions over here in Q&A box. Please do, if you want to speak and ask question to our panelist or the presenter, please feel free to raise your hand. But at the moment, I have got a few questions, and this is, I'm just looking into the Q&A box, and here we have a question from Ruba. Ruba is the former permanent secretary from Mauritius. And the question is, does program-based budgeting assist in promoting evaluation among parliamentarians as the National Assembly yearly approve the budget proposal? Would you like to take this question, Dr. Romulo?
Yeah, I think so. The program-based budgeting is one way of organizing the budget that is linked more to outputs and outcomes, unlike focusing mere on budget or expenditure line items. The budgeting, which is program-based, somehow has this logic of linking to outputs and outcomes. So in which case, the evaluation of those programs in the annual budgeting process would demand for some kind of evaluation. So in a way, I think it helps the further evaluation, the program-based budgeting.
Okay, thank you. And here we have another question. I think I would like to give this question to Dr. Thilakarajah, sir. So the question is that, well, how to institutionalize evaluation in countries where this is seen as a technocratic platform? Well, he has also given what technocratic platform is. It's basically, yeah, the parliament has not rose to the occasion to claim part of this agenda as their mandate. And instead, it resides with specific agencies, for example, Ministry of Finance or strategic ministries. So how does the NGO organization like evaluation societies gain, traction here? Who are their partners and allies? So this is a question that has come up from one of the participants. Would you like to take this, sir?
Yeah, yes, of course. Of course, as you say, that we must need the leadership. Who is take the leadership on this? Most of the countries that evaluation is identified, that should be led by the head of states, especially presidents or prime ministers. So under him or her, that could make effective in each and every area. So even Sri Lanka now, even from 70s and 90s, that we could understand that there are several institutions based on evaluation, but there is no leadership. That is the lack of that. We could see that. So that within the policy, that what we are doing is make it mandate. Once you say that about the NGOs, once they are proposing that proposals, there's a query on that. How do you evaluate your projects and programs? What we are going. But in the context of the public sector, there is no any mandatory arrangement. Do evaluation once you propose any proposal to the national budget. Once the national budget comes, how that national policy inquires to raise question, what happened to the last budget? So how much we reached? So whether we are going to allocate more funds, so like funds on based on the achievements that what we need. So if there is no any mandatory, every year what we do, every year we allocate funds and we do the development intervention without knowing the outputs and outcomes on those areas. So the leadership is necessary to make with mandatory arrangement for the evaluation, to institutionalize in the different forms of the different kind who are the actors in the different role they are playing in the development intervention. So these are the arrangements that could be, I would like to say, the political leadership is very essential to take evaluation things in the country.
Thank you so much. And now I'd like to pose a question.
Rajani, can I come on this question? Yeah. So one is the role of the parliamentarians, but in a context like India, where we don't have a policy that strong, what as voluntary organizations who are into the the evaluation in the GOPEs, what two instances I can talk about when in India, when we started talking about evaluation and reaching out to the parliamentarians, they were a bit surprised that why is evaluation body coming to us and talking, isn't it a government work, the departmental work. So when we started talking about it, and we organized a round table, I think Thilakarajah sir was also there in Delhi in 2020, 21st time, in where we got the parliamentarians from different countries and also from India. So there were 2 parliamentarians who were attending from India for the exchange between parliamentarians from Sri Lanka, Zambia, Kenya, India. Suddenly there was this whole, spurt of interest around, all right, are we talking about this also? We should be talking about this also. Secondly, also when we just talked with the Speaker's office and arranged that 3 of our parliamentarians can go to the Global Parliamentarian Forum. And when they realized and when they went over there and saw the exchange with more than 70, 80 countries, parliamentarians had got together and talked about this, suddenly they were suddenly turned towards the VOPE, the evaluation community of India, saying that, guys, you tell us and feed us on what we need to speak in the parliament and how can we raise the questions in parliament about it. Now that is, I think, a healthy democracy where voluntary organizations working in tandem with parliamentarians, raising questions of people's interest and creating a space for work of evaluations to proceed, or the space for evaluation to work. in the parliamentary system which we have in India.
Thank you. Now so Asela, I have a question for you. This is personally from me. So yeah, I mean, I definitely know that, working on the institutionalization of evaluation is not an overnight work. It is definitely a very, you need to have patience and hard work, consistently work on it. And you have a very good knowledge about the region, and you've worked for the region. And I just wanted to know, how do you see the future of institutionalization and professionalization of evaluation in next 5 years in the region compared to how it was in the last 5 years?
Yeah, thank you, Rajani, for this important question. And of course, we heard from our panelists also that, our situation in different countries in the region, very interesting points and their thoughts and experience. Now, regarding institutionalization, when we compare with last 5 years or 10 years, we see a big difference and big changes in the evaluation landscape in general. That's why I mentioned in my presentation also, the emerging areas are young and emerging evaluators. They rock the field with different ideas and different initiatives, and they are also part of the professionalization process. So that is important. Parliamentarians' engagement, as Honorable Thilakarajah also mentioned, their role. At the same time, now we also have to see, like I mentioned also in my presentation, the institutionalization framework. What are the key factors that we need to consider when we talk about institutionalization? Because now we used to talk about what are the gaps and challenges in monitoring and evaluation or evaluation field. So in the past, we have been discussing this, but I think now we need to pay attention for actions. That's what we are mainly promoting. So of course, there has been, big change or improvements in the past 5 years or 10 years, especially with the International Year of Evaluation. So evaluation landscape started or began changes. But at the same time, it's not enough, because now the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, we have the time frame until 2030. The question is whether countries achieve sustainable development goals by 2030, and out of 15 years, we have only 8 years remaining. How can we achieve sustainable development? And monitoring and evaluation is a very strong component for that. Whether countries have considered this, voluntary national reviews are being guided by evidence, and whether we monitor the progress of sustainable development with this. So we have huge challenges in front of us. So that's why we need to see a comprehensive approach for evaluation as well, national evaluation system, and how to institutionalize this with the regulations, the political system, the social system, as well as professional system. In my opinion, all these should go hand in hand. And we talk about, of course, you had a poll question also regarding social system, citizens' participation, whether citizens are aware of evaluation. I think this is a good finding out of this evaluation globe, that social system is the weakest one. Because now parliamentarians can tell us more. Parliamentarians say, we do what our constituencies say or what our citizens say. What citizens demand from parliamentarians or parliament to our policymakers. Whether we demand, evidence-based decision making, whether we demand parliament and parliamentarians to use evaluation, whether we demand the government or the country to use evaluation, have a strong evaluation system, or whether we just demand day-to-day things. That is very important. In my country, I have seen that, citizens demand sometimes very personal things, or day-to-day things rather than policy level or countrywide changes. So that is important, whether the citizens have the understanding about evaluation and whether they demand. And even in Europe, we can see that some of the countries, citizens use evaluative evidence in elections. Now, Finland did the first ever SDG evaluation in 2018, just before their election, general election. The government want to do that because the citizens can use findings of the evaluation in the election. I think in Asia, maybe some of our countries may have a long journey for that, but they do that. So this is where we have to see. So I think when citizens demand this, there may be a big change. So I think in next 5 years, we have to promote institutionalization of evaluation, especially educating citizens. That's what I think. At the same time, I want to very quickly mention, sorry, I'm taking a long time. In the struggle mentioned, Mr. Thilakarajah, happened in Sri Lanka. People ask, or especially young people, ask key questions related to monitoring and evaluation, although they did not use the wording monitoring and evaluation. They ask what happened to the investment in the country made so far. So where are the results of development interventions? We have, like 40 years, 60 years, 80 years poverty alleviation program, whether the poverty was alleviated in the country and how many families then, rather than, we are adding number of families to poverty alleviation program, or it should be the other way around. So especially youth ask these important questions, but they did not use the wording evaluation. But I think people have the sense, but at the same time, more education on this, especially through a comprehensive program, and also having a system is important. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Asela. That was very insightful, and we always, we've been, we just hope that the country, Sri Lanka, bounce back and be again financially, and come to that level where it was before, and even more better than that. And now, so now we'll be closing the session. But before I do that, I would, okay, so I have a few minutes left. In the comment box, I see that there is a participant who has given a really beautiful comments. Ruba is there. So Ruba, would you like to unmute yourself and say your observation or your comments that you have written here? It's very, it's nice, it's good. Would you like to unmute yourself and speak? And we just have 2 minutes for you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. So greetings from Mauritius, everybody. I'm Ruba Morgan. I did my PhD in evaluation. That is why I'm very interested in this at the University of Birmingham. So it was in 2017. And what I did, because I myself, I didn't know about evaluation, but I was a Humphrey Fellow. I was in the States at the University of Washington, and I did a module in program evaluation. And I was also a part-time lecturer at the University of Mauritius here. So when I came back home, I said, we are not doing evaluation, we are doing monitoring. So I continue with my teaching, but then I work in several ministries in government. I just retired in 2021. So I said, I now want to pursue my studies in evaluation, in impact evaluation per se. So I continued my studies in evaluation. And what I did a qualitative study. I interviewed ministers because it was a very targeted approach. I interviewed ministers, former ministers, senior chief executive, those who would implement the programs, and the recipients of services as well. So those who benefit from the services. And I was quite surprised because they mixed up the issues of monitoring and evaluation. Mauritius, for example, is highly monitoring compliant because of the rules, regulation, existing system, and also because of the past history. What I said, Mauritius is a welfare state. So any government coming in, they are bent in implementing their portfolio, regardless of whether looking at the efficacy of the program, because it is a short term. 5 years is not enough for building capital projects. So even every year, year in, year out, we have the director of audit complaining that there is wastage of fund, cost overrun, and all of this. But then the situation has not changed. Of course, we do have some sort of evaluation which are carried out by international agencies, because in Mauritius, we have World Bank, we have IMF, we have UNDP, we have EU. But then this fit within the country program. They do evaluation and meta-evaluation across countries. And then the results, I think it's factored into the program of respective ministries. But we don't have any national evaluation policy. And for so long, I've been trying to set up a VOP in Mauritius. I talked to Asela some time back, and he said that there is one. I've not been able to trace back the evaluation association here in Mauritius. But I'm keen to do that. And this month I'm going to participate in the Ideas Conference on evaluation, so sharing my knowledge, what I've learned, because I have only theoretical knowledge. I've never carried out an evaluation myself, but I know about because in my studies, I look at the demand, at the supply, and I use the framework of the 9 factors which Asela has mentioned. So I use this, and also I use another framework, because this is very scientific but this is not, it is relevant, but from policy perspective,
Ruba,
because I'm looking at evaluation.
Yeah, we are looking forward to work with you and also continue to support each other. And I'm glad that you're already in contact with Asela, right person to be in touch with. And so looking at the time, we're not able to take all the questions, but we see a comment here from Marvin, and we acknowledge your comment. It's very interesting, and I assume that all of our participants can actually read that, right? So thank you so much for your comment. It's very interesting and perhaps very insightful as well. And now we're now going to wrap up the session, and I'd like to introduce you to Miss Anna Erica. She is the board member of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, and also a co-leader of Eval Youth Asia. She has very extensive experience working with young and emerging evaluators. And I really request you, Anna, to give your remarks on the session, and ask you to perhaps share a bit of your experience on how it is with Eval Youth Asia as well. Thank you. The floor is yours, Anna.
Thank you, Rajani. I hope I'm being heard well. Yeah, okay, great. So just like, I have a very short time, so I'm just gonna share my insights and my reaction overall in the discussion. And, and to summarize, essentially in institutionalizing evaluation, there are really a lot of factors to take into consideration. And we've talked about political systems, social systems, and professional systems. And as a practitioner in development and evaluation field, every one of us in this room essentially is part of these systems one way or the other. And if you think of institutionalizing evaluation as a piece of a puzzle, it's the first piece for development of national evaluation policies. It's the first piece for development of standards, the code of ethics, the frameworks for evaluation. It's also the first piece for professionalizing the field. It's the first piece for developing national evaluation capacities, and so on and so forth. This just goes to show that institutionalizing evaluation affects all of us in many levels. And this makes this topic a very critical issue for everyone. as a common citizen, as shared by Asela in his example just few minutes before, it becomes like it becomes a system that will protect the citizens. It becomes a system that will create various infrastructures to ensure that the countries delivers on their commitments on the sustainable development goals. As a young evaluator myself, institutionalizing evaluation becomes a critical piece in ensuring that the evaluation field develops further, so that me and my colleagues, young colleagues in the evaluation field, are able to thrive and build their careers in evaluation. So overall, institutionalizing evaluation is a personal and common concern for everyone. And I thank all of our speakers here today for sharing all of your knowledge and experience in this field. And may the pearls of wisdom that you have shared become a very effective ammunition for all of us here in this room, so that we are all able to take action in making institutionalizing evaluation in Asia Pacific a reality. So thank you again for our speakers, and over to you, Rajani.
Thank you so much, Anna. And so now we are at the end of the session. It was really interesting. And before I end the session, I'd like to just remind you that there is going to be a pop-up survey. And I really request all of you to, respond to that survey. We just want to know how the session went and how can we improve the next time. So please respond to that survey. And before I end the session, we really like to thank Asian Evaluation Week 2022. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And we would also like to thank Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, UNFPA, and Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation. And most importantly, our speakers, Dr. Asela, Dr. Romulo, Honorable Thilakarajah, Mr. Aniruddha, and Anna. Thank you so much for, really giving this time for us and being part of this very enriching discussion. Thank you so much. And most importantly, I'd like to thank our team who has been really working behind the scene, from APEA as well, and also the organizing team. You all have really worked very professionally and really helped us to, do this session very, very easily. Thank you so much, organizing team. And I'd like to just give a big shout out to Randika and Madhuka for always being there, supporting us.